Hi, we're back in session. It is 9:37 a.m. This is a special meeting of Commissioners Court. We've made it through item number 3. It's time to move on to item number 4, discussion regarding bids received for the courthouse annex building project and possible action to amend the project budget if necessary. I'm just going to give a brief description of the reason for this line item. We had an update from our construction manager, Mr. Williford, about a month ago regarding the project. There were a few line items that had gone over budget at that time, and Commissioner Cooper and I met with the construction manager and the architect, and we made some decisions on cutting some items there to bring the project back under budget. And those items were the dormers. We removed the dormers off the front of the building, and we also removed, there was an employee parking area in the back of the building that had actually been added since the preliminary drawings were made, I guess, back last spring, and we took some of that parking out to bring the project back into budget. Since that time, the construction manager has gone out for bids on all of the remaining items of the building, and when those bids come in, the project is quite a bit over budget, and rather than Commissioner Cooper and I deciding the items that we could look at making some cuts, we wanted to bring this to the attention of the entire court and let everybody take a look at the options that we have for making cuts to the project to hopefully bring the project back within budget. And if we cannot get the project back within budget, then we need to discuss the possibility of amending the budget to cover the construction of the new building. So I thought all weekend about exactly what all I would say regarding this, and I think what I'm going to start off with is, Greg, if you could come up and just kind of explain to us. I've got this timeline here that Cody prepared for us that talks about where the project was before we went out for the certificates of obligation. And then it looks like the revised schematic design was completed after that on September the 6th, after we approved the project and went forward with the certificates of obligation and what have you. And then that is the drawings that were used to go out for bids back in February. And if you could just kind of explain to the court, as you have to Commissioner Cooper and I, the reason that the bids have come in so much higher, what has driven that cost up.
Okay. When we first started the project a couple of years ago, I've lost track of time, we met with all the different departments and we said, give us your wish list. And we went through every item that they wanted. And then we did a preliminary probable cost statement based on everything that they wanted. And we knew then that we were way too high, so we had to cut a lot of the items out of the program at that point, and then try to work it down into a more manageable budget. The building was probably close to being twice as big as what it was finally designed for. So we start off doing a programming worksheet to see where we are initially. So after that, like I said, we cut a lot of the things out, and then working with Daniel's construction, we began to piece things together. The first thing we did, we got some prices on the dirt work and the metal building and the metal building erection. Those prices, I think, were coming in fairly good. And then we went out to bid all the other items. And what has come up high is the mechanical, the HVAC, the air conditioning, and the associated electrical, because both the mechanical HVAC design ties into the electrical, and those were the two items that were highest over budget. We had a few alternates for the completely bricking the building, all 4 walls. Like the judge said, we removed the 2 dormers. There was nothing. It was more of an aesthetic issue, make the building kind of pop out that front facade that faces the courthouse. So we looked at removing those dormers, which I think lowered some of the metal building cost. Then we looked at options for removing the brick completely, leaving a brick on 2 of the walls, eliminating the parking in the rear, and maybe having the county come back and doing it with asphalt. We had storm sewer with catch basins to drain the site, but I have visited with my civil engineer a couple of weeks ago. We have redesigned that we're going to sheet drain, and some of that was with the county has purchased that property to the east, so that made a change in the design because we can't drain onto other people's property. But now we've been able to adjust that. I think that was like approximately $40,000 in potential savings there. But the big part is the air conditioning and the electrical. And one of the things that has driven this cost is there's a lot of different this building is a lot of different departments that are zoned differently. So in order for everyone to control the temperature, to maintain themselves, be comfortable, there's zones so they can control the temperature in their area. If you don't do that, someone in one area may be hot and they're trying to adjust things and it's going to be cold to someone else. And if this gives them more control. The building is designed what we call a spray foam insulation, which makes the building almost like an igloo cooler. That helps lower the air conditioning, the load that is required. But this building mechanically is designed to be very efficient. You will have lower energy costs associated with this building as you would with a different type of insulation or a different type of HVAC system. So this building was designed with efficiency and long-term life in mind. This is a building that's been designed that's going to last 30, 40, 50 years. It's built to last. It's built to be efficient. It's built to be ease of maintenance for the county staff.
Now, Greg, if you could just kind of explain to us, you kind of touched on the part about the electrical and the air conditioning expense being so high. What drove that cost up based on, I guess, our preliminary drawings that we budgeted off of last spring, and then the final drawings that were finished at the end of last year that we went out for bids on? What happened there? You had explained to Commissioner Cooper and I about this outside fresh air pressurization or what have you. Can you kind of explain that to the court, and let's maybe try to all come to an understanding on that?
For the rest of the commissioners, one of the discussions that we have had in the past few weeks with Commissioner Cooper and Judge McDaniel, as well as the contractor and the general contractor, as well as our mechanical and electrical engineer, to the fresh air intake, which I don't know if the rest of the commissioners have been explaining this. This helps with the humidity level, controlling the humidity level. This building, built like it's designed now, would eliminate any possible humidity problems. And I think one of the issues that you have now, where everyone is the humidity problem that's caused some mold and mildew in the building. So to strive to remedy that, we've concentrated to make sure that we don't have a mold and mildew problem. And I don't know if that was through the subs that were looking at it, if they had that fresh air intake and a lot of the different the zoning that we have. I don't know if in their preliminary estimates they had figured in those two items.
Well, in fact, y'all didn't include it in yours either, right?
No, sir.
Okay. Those preliminary estimates that we had from April of 2016 did not include that fresh air pressurization or whatever it's called.
Correct.
So that is the main reason for the
Yes.
large increase. There's some line items that came in over budget, barely. Some of them were a little higher. Then we had some items that came in well under budget to kind of offset,
Right.
which I think is normal in construction.
Yes, sir.
These two items are what's driving the cost. And then we also have, which I believe we talked about at our last meeting, we've also got a generator added into the project that was not in the original specifications, and that's $100,000 in itself.
And we looked at using the existing generator across the street, but after studying and looking at it, it was more feasible to go with a new generator that I know that there's a grant application in for, but I don't think the county's received an answer.
I got an update from Ms. Wigley on that the other day. The state has extended the deadline to submit those to June the 1st, so it'll be at least 30 to 60 days after that before we have an answer as to whether or not our application has been accepted. She says it looks good according to the consultant that we're using, but they can't have an answer for us until at least the deadline is passed.
Good.
Now, this is standby generators so we can operate in case of emergency and stuff like that. It's not necessary for the building itself to operate in normal times, right?
You would not need it unless there's a hurricane and power's out.
So, I mean, this sort of a separate.
Yes, sir. It is not needed for the daily operation of the building. But I understand that in the health department, they have some medications that they have to keep at a certain temperature, and they can't lose power to a lot of these areas like that.
Now, you mentioned that, this fresh air intake, I guess when Cody and them went out for bids and the bids came back in, they had included it. But it was not on the specifications.
Yes, that's it is currently in the drawings and specifications.
Or was it on the specifications at the time that we went out for our initial cost?
I don't recall. I don't think so.
If it was, I don't recall either, but if it was, the contractors didn't have access to that, so that's why that, according to what Cody and them has explained to me, that's why the difference in the two numbers
Yeah.
in those areas.
But we feel it's important that this is included because this will help fight the potential for mold and mildew inside the building.
And didn't you also say this is a building code requirement?
Yes, sir.
Is that a national building code or state?
This is the 2012 international, International Building Code, which this building is designed for. This building is designed for the 2012 International Building Code, Energy Conservation Code, and Texas Accessibility Standards, which people think of as the ADA.
I understand the necessity of it, because that's a lot of the reason we have the problem that we have over in the annex, where that building was very, very old.
Yes, sir.
Can you check and find the date at which time we found out, or at which time we started including those specifications, or the realization that we needed outside air into our planning and our bidding and things like this?
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it.
And who is driving? Who or what agency, just so I can be clear, is driving the necessity for these newer units?
The Energy Conservation Code that our mechanical and electrical engineers are bound to design by.
There's no other code that they could draw by. And the reason I'm asking you this, there are buildings in the county being built that are larger, cheaper, by independent builders.
Okay.
And in some cases, a 16,000 square foot building for about half the cost.
Well, I don't know what types of buildings those are, but with this building with so many different zones, that's something else that's driving up the mechanical cost.
I understand, but when we're talking to the layperson at the restaurant over lunch, and they're concerned as to why the county's building a small building at potentially double the cost of what a nonprofit's building for half the cost, we need to be able to give them an answer other than, well, our builder wanted to build it according to the codes they build by.
Okay.
Because then the question we're gonna get from them is, so is there another set of codes? Are you bound to build by those codes? These are the questions we're gonna get from the lay people in the community
Okay.
who are building this building.
Yeah, I agree with Chris. Are these mandatory codes that follow some state law for government buildings, or are these codes that are desirable but are not mandatory by law?
I believe they are mandatory, but I will confirm with my mechanical electrical engineer to make
Appreciate it
sure.
if you would. And then you mentioned the number of zones. How many zones are we talking about in this building?
I believe there are 5 zones.
5 zones.
I believe so. I will confirm that as well.
And can you give an approximation, or get us an approximation of how much this increase from 5 zones to, say, one central deal, how much that's adding to this cost?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
While we're on that subject, Greg, and I might be jumping a little ahead, did y'all review the idea of doing away with that one unit for those 3 rooms?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Where the TB area is, we have a dedicated area for the tuberculosis area because they have to have their own intake and outtake air. It can't be mixed with the other air within the building.
The information I sent you from the health director, are y'all still looking at that, or?
Yes, sir. I forwarded that to my engineer. What the
Okay.
judge is referring to, a dedicated unit, or an air scrubber, I think is the term used, that would eliminate the need for that one area, because this one unit is serving just 3 rooms, the TB room, TB nurse, and the biohazard room, which is they're all 3 adjacent to each other in the floor plan.
and you haven't heard anything from your engineer on that?
Not yet. I think I received that information, it was Thursday or Friday, but he does have it.
Shelley?
There's not a need for 3 rooms. I don't know where that came from, but there's not, a TB office, that's just a regular office. That's not gonna be any patients in there. There's not like one room where TB patients would be seen.
Okay.
And the biohazard room, I mean, it's currently not, there's not a need for negative pressure. They're sealed in that
Okay.
room. I don't know if that helps that, but there's only one room that would need to be
Okay.
taken into consideration.
Well, if there's one room required, we can most likely use that. I think it's the equipment they already have, this air scrubber unit that we could use just for that TV room that she spoke of. And there's some cost savings there from the air conditioning.
If that be the case, and this, unit was, eliminated, could that be taken care of with just through design, or would, in your recommendation, would we have to go back out for bids for, mechanical and electrical with that not in there?
I would go to the contractor with that question,
Okay.
though. But I think we wouldn't necessarily need to go back out for bid. I think we can modify
Modify.
the existing bids that we
All right.
have.
You agree with that, Cody?
Yes, sir, I would recommend going back to whoever bid it at bid time and was the low bidder.
Okay.
Either negotiating or asking them for those options, those credits.
If I could jump in just 1 second here while we're grilling Greg. Both our architect and our construction manager at risk has done a tremendous job and worked with us very well. And I hope that y'all understand why we're asking these questions and have these issues, because we're dealing with other people's money.
Yes,
I mean,
sir.
we're the taxpayers' money, so anything we can do, and I know you understand that, but I want to say I think you're doing a great job, both of y'all, so.
And I'll echo that as well. Thank y'all both very much.
Appreciate it.
And I would agree with what both the judge and commissioner have said. I would just like us also keep in mind that while this building needs to be designed in a practical manner, I know there's lots of things that are possible if you got the money. But I don't want us to lose sight that the taxpayers is paying for this. They work in a two-zone environment, hot or cold,
Yes, sir.
you know. So we want to keep this thing in perspective.
Okay.
All right, Commissioner Cooper, anything further for Greg, Commissioner Kirkendall,
Thank you, I
I
appreciate
don't
it.
have any.
Commissioner Roberts? Any questions for the construction manager? All right, Cody's done a good job of putting some information together, and I know he worked with Greg, and I believe y'all met with some of the contractors themselves, right? And talked about some options to make some reductions.
We met specifically with our engineers and the mechanical
Right.
contractor.
And I've sent all of that to you. I put this together. This includes all of those items. I already gave you a copy, I believe. That includes all of the items that were listed from Cody as possible items to look at to reduce the cost. And although I put it on the agenda today to possibly discuss a budget amendment, I really did not think we would get into that today. But just in case everybody said, hey, this is what we can do to fix this, I wanted to be sure we had it on the agenda where we could. What I'm thinking is let's all kind of take a look at this. This is very new information for 3 commissioners, I know, and maybe kind of digest it, ask questions that you may have. And we can do one of 2 things. We're fixing to start our regular meeting here in about 5 minutes. We can come back into this item in this special meeting later this morning and have more discussion on this, or we can take it home with us, have another special meeting in, say, a week, maybe next Monday, and really get back into this and discuss it and try to make some decisions at that time. What's the pleasure of the court?
I'd move for Monday.
I'd move for Monday.
All right.
I think that sounds good. I would also ask that and I know you probably do anyway, but the commissioners take in consideration that some of these things, our subs are sitting on, like the building material. Has that been ordered?
We have a purchase order for the metal building.
Okay.
We're kind of, I say, slow walking, putting them off to approve those drawings, because if we make some changes to the brick, then we're gonna, like with the elite brick, we'll need to add colored wall panels back, so we're kind of slowing them down. I think as of right now, we are locked in on their price from, back in December, but we can verify that. They have had some material increases, but I'm really pushing on them to hold that. The other bids that we received in February, we requested they hold those bids for 60 days.
60 days, okay.
But industry standard is 30, so, you know, we'll put every bit of pressure on we can to hold those for 60 days.
Thank you, Cody.
I have one more comment, if I may.
Sure.
Before Monday's meeting, I will get with the engineer, and we'll look at some of the zoning questions that the commissioners had, as well as that air scrubber. So I'll have a report, try to get that over to you before, so you have that before the Monday meeting to be consider that a full meeting.
Thank you very
Greg.
much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Judge, I'd like to see us agree to just separate the standby generator situation completely from the building situation.
Okay.
Because we've got a lot of options on how we can handle that, grants or,
That has been discussed, and great depth with them. The only, and that's probably what I would recommend too. The only thing is, they have to have the electrical engineer told us the other day they had to know which hookups to have in place. So it wouldn't change much on the electrical portion of it.
If we don't, if we're not gonna go with the generator initially, we have to have the building prepared to receive it later. But
Right.
if we don't, it'll
So other
be a
than,
lot more expensive to make adjustments later.
right, other than the cost of the generator itself, we would still have that other included in our electrical bid. So
Yes,
that we would be wanting to put that in later.
yes.
Okay. I agree with Mr. Pelt.
I move we adjourn the special session.
A second. Have a motion by Commissioner Pelt and a second by Commissioner Roberts to adjourn. We are adjourned. I'll get back with y'all and we'll set a date for another special meeting. Monday morning is not good for me, but we'll pick a day. It's good for everybody and we'll set a date.
I'm good all